Hi friends, and welcome to the very first recording for 2023. I'm sending you just a quick message today to share some of my ideas about all of these things to do with New Year's resolutions and making intentions to move towards that best future version of ourselves, which I think is a really great idea. But I wanted to put some context around it that might be a little bit helpful, perhaps because it was to me. I really love this idea that actually came from Aristotle, that an acorn is destined to become an oak tree. It's pre-programmed into the acorn to become an oak tree, which is a pretty miraculous thing if you think about it. No one would ever think that an acorn would become an oak tree if you just looked at that little thing in the beginning. But that intelligence is already there, and all it requires is the right nutrition from the environment. It needs sunshine, it needs rain, it needs soil, it needs a little bit of luck, not to be killed by a forester or be eaten by a squirrel when it's in its acorn state. And all of those things have to be present to allow that to happen. But when those things are there, it just happens. That intelligence is already there. And the idea is that as humans, we are really no different. We are pre-programmed to become the best version of ourselves if we simply allow it to happen and then provide the nutrition, so to speak, that's required to foster that perfect environment. So what's that got to do with New Year's resolutions? Well, probably quite a lot, because my understanding is that we're all making these decisions to do something to move towards the best version of ourselves, right? Whatever it might be. Now, a lot of New Year's resolutions can be pretty aggressive. I've actually given up on those ones, the ones that are like, okay, I'm going to make myself do something that I really don't want to do because I've got to fix this broken person in some way. I'm going to force myself to starve or exercise in ways that I don't enjoy, or I'm going to just make myself be better because there's something broken about me that I need to fix. That's a pretty aggressive approach, and I'm just suggesting that if we look at it from that other direction, that we are already pre-programmed to become the best version of ourselves, then it's more of a soft allowing it to happen rather than a hammering it in to happen. Because those really aggressive resolutions, did they ever work? Like, did anybody ever stick to one of those for more than a couple of weeks? Because it's painful. And no one's going to keep doing something that's painful. Perhaps another way to approach this is more to just softly allow it to happen. And if we understand that we are pre-programmed to become the best version of ourselves, the only thing that's stopping that from happening is our own internal defenses, because there are parts of us that don't want to change, for sure. There are parts of us that are very comfortable in our comfortable old ways, right? And we have to work with those parts. And then we have to provide the nutrition that helps us to grow, just like the oak tree needs those things. Well, what do humans need to grow? Quite a lot of things. And so what I'm looking at myself is how to surround myself with those things that support this natural development that's already pre-programmed into me. One of the most important things is surrounding ourselves with the right people. Humans live in community. We need to be connected, and surrounding ourselves with the right people is absolutely key to how we're going to be able to grow into the best version of ourselves, or how we're going to grow in a different direction that's going to require some undoing. And I think we've all seen this, say, for example, with teenagers at this time of life where they're very, very easy to influence, right? It's so critical what their peer group is. And we really focus on that a lot for children, and especially teenagers and young adults. The peer group can completely change the direction of a person's life. And honestly, we're no different as midlife women. Our peer group, or the people that we surround ourselves with, is critical. So that's my number one, not a resolution, but my number one intention is to continue to surround myself with positive people who help me to move in the direction of the best version of myself rather than hindering that movement. And that could be people in a YouTube video. So hopefully this video is working in that direction for you, and other positive things that you can consume. And things we consume are not just food and liquids. They're also social media, they're books, They're things that we choose to look at, things that we choose to read on our phones, everything that we take in. I think it's a good idea to consider, is this something that's moving me in a direction that's positive towards my goal of becoming my best future self? I mean, it doesn't even have to be a goal. It's really an inevitability to become the best version of yourself if you allow it to happen. But are these things that I'm consuming moving me in that direction, or are they taking me away from that direction? And maybe that's a good question to ask of anything that we might do. So for myself, some of the things that I'm working on are trying to drink less. If I drink more than 1 glass of wine a day, that actually moves me away from my goal of becoming the best version of myself, because I don't make good decisions. And it's too much sugar, so I don't sleep well, and all those things that we already know. So that might be a small thing. Or maybe if I'm reading the news on my phone, which I try not to do much, if it's something that's obviously a biased piece or something that's trying to get me excited or pull me in one direction or another, is that helping me to move towards the best version of myself, or is it hindering me? And one of the ways that I can tell in my own self is whether whatever it is that I'm consuming or whomever it is that I'm around is helping me to feel more calm, curious, compassionate. Those are 3 of my favorite words. Or whether I'm becoming less calm, curious, and compassionate. That's just a little test. And I love those 3 words. I think they can be really useful. And you might have different words of your own. But is this thing meeting that test, that it's helping me to become more of what I want to become and not less of what I want to become? Because we don't have very much time. So it's really important. I was just thinking the other day, I love reading, but there's only so many books I'm going to get to read in this life. And not that many more, even if I read one every month. So each book that I choose has to be something really good, something that really helps me to grow in some way. So I think that might be an interesting way of looking at it, rather than beating yourself into doing something that you don't want. Just thinking about whether that change that you're considering making or that you really want to make in your life is being nurtured with the right things in order to help it to move forward. Because for sure, it's a lot easier if we just allow things to happen naturally, like the acorn growing into the oak tree, rather than beating them into happening, because that just doesn't work. So a couple of fun things that we have going on at Complete Midlife Wellness Center that are helping, I hope, to connect more women and to reach more people so that we can help you to do this as we're doing it ourselves as well. Some exciting news that we have for this year. 2023 is a big year. I've actually had it on my calendar for 18 years because 2023 is the year that my youngest children, who are twins, go to college. So 2023, I've known for a long time, was going to be the year that I became an empty nester. So this is a huge transitional year for me, as it is for probably most of you, because these transitions are just happening everywhere, aren't they? Whether we ask for them or not. We've got children leaving, parents getting sick and dying. We've got jobs changing, relationships ending or changing. We've got our bodies changing, hormones changing. We don't have to look too far for change. So it's really important, I think, to start focusing on this idea of how we can move through these transitions in a more peaceful way. I'm talking about myself, not fighting those changes, because that's a waste of time. They're happening anyway. And with that same idea of kind of inevitability of the oak tree growing from the acorn, these changes are inevitable. So how can I move through them more gracefully and be more like the flagpole in the wind, not the flag that's pushed around and thrown off balance by everything, but more stable. Some of the things that we're doing to help with that within ourselves and within the work that we're offering to try to help you all to do that too. We're expanding our offices here in Houston. If you live in Houston, we've grown so quickly that we're actually building a second office in the Tanglewood area of Houston, which is near the Galleria. And if those of you don't live in Houston, we are working on ways to expand our virtual ways to connect with you as well. So more on that to come, but that will probably be in the second quarter of this year. That's just some exciting news to share. I'm also making an 8-week menopause course for those of you who want to connect with me directly through Zoom. We're going to meet every week for 8 weeks and talk about a topic relevant to midlife and menopause. That's going to be coming out in March, so I'll be able to connect with so many more of you that way, and I can't wait to meet you in that context. And then the most exciting thing that I want to share a link to below is that I am co-hosting the very first Empowering Midlife Wellness Retreat. And the theme of the retreat is creating the best version of yourself, that the best of life is yet to come. And again, it's in that same philosophy of the acorn turning into the oak tree. We're going to be meeting in person for a 3-night retreat in Austin in May. The information's below. May 5th is a Friday. We'll be staying through Monday and just enjoying everything that Midlife has to offer. I have 7 hosts, counting me. You won't believe who they are. You can check it out below. I have Dominique Saxa, Stacy London, I have Elaine Turner, Meg Ellis, Kelly Workman, and Elizabeth Irvine, who are all experts in the midlife spectrum in some way or another and are bringing different pieces of wisdom to help us to share. And this is such an incredible example of how getting women together can be absolutely transformative. And I've personally been to several retreats myself that were women only, and I left transformed. I left with a clear idea of what I needed to do to move in the direction of becoming the best version of myself, and I left with a whole lot of support. So there's nothing that can compare to getting together with other women for a period of time, 3 days, and sharing in really intimate small groups. You'll be with these women in very small groups of 10, so getting to know these hosts that I mentioned as well as each other. And the most beautiful thing about retreat is we don't know what's going to happen. It's completely directed by the people who are there. So although we do have an agenda, which is amazing, including so many fun things, lots of time for spa activities, rest, some programs, and just lots of fun sharing time, whoever's there is really going to direct what happens. So it's such an adventure. I'd really encourage you to sign up, because once Dominique and Stacy put this on their social channels, it's going to sell out in just a minute. So the link to that is below. It's May 5th at Miraval Spa Resort in Austin, which you might know was recently voted as the #1 spa resort in North America. So I'm just throwing that out there so you can get a chance to sign up. And it is really in line with this whole New Year's resolution intention setting idea, because we are growing into the best version of ourselves unless we fight it or we don't give ourselves the right nutrition. And this is a perfect way to commit to give yourself the right nutrition to keep growing in that right direction and to be really supported in doing so. So I'm so excited to share some of the amazing things that are going on here in 2023, and I want to share them with you. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your friends, and I can't wait to see you next week. To keep growing in that right direction and to I'm so excited to share